Hi everyone, today's resource task for the week is going to ask you to solve a word problem. So let's get started reading the problem together and we'll do the 3 reads. Remember, the first time we read, we want to think, who is the story about? It takes Mrs. Landman 198 seconds to run around the neighborhood. It takes Mr. Landman 207 seconds. How much faster is Mrs. Landman than Mr. Landman? So, who is this story about? That's right, it's about me, Mrs. Landman, and Mr. Landman. And what are we doing in this story? Excellent, we're running around the neighborhood. Let's read it again a second time and think about the important numbers and why they are important. It takes Mrs. Landman 198 seconds to run around the neighborhood, and it takes Mr. Landman 207 seconds to run around the neighborhood. How much faster is Mrs. Landman than Mr. Landman? So, what are our important numbers? That's right, our first important number is 198. Why is 198 important? Good, because that's how many seconds it takes for me to run around my neighborhood. What was my second important number in this story? Excellent, my second important number was 207 seconds. Why was 207 seconds important? Good, because that's how long it took for Mr. Landman to run around the neighborhood. Okay, we're going to read it one more time and we're going to try and think about what do we need to do to solve this problem? What question are we being asked? It takes Mrs. Landman 198 seconds to run around the neighborhood. It takes Mr. Landman 207 seconds. How much faster is Mrs. Landman than Mr. Landman? So, what question are we being asked to solve? Excellent. We are being asked to figure out how much faster Mrs. Landman is than Mr. Landman. Okay, so here's your job now that we've done the 3 reads together. I'm going to draw your attention to our types of number story. I showed this to you a few weeks ago when we did a word problem for resource, and this is posted on the Flipgrid again today. So your job is to figure out if you need to add or subtract to find the problem. You can use this chart to figure out the type of word problem you have here. So let's take a quick look together. In this question, am I asking you to join or add 2 numbers together? I want to know how much faster Mrs. Landman is than Mr. Landman. So am I joining the number of seconds it took each of us together? Let's look at the next type of problem. Am I asking you to take away or separate something? So I know that it takes Mrs. Landman 198 seconds and Mr. Landman 207 seconds. We're trying to figure out how much faster Mrs. Landman is than Mr. So am I asking you to take anything away? Let's look at the next one. Is this a missing part problem? Do we have a whole and a part, and are we trying to find a missing part? Remember, I want to know how much faster Mr. Landman is than Mr. Landman. Or am I asking you to compare something? So when you're comparing something, you're telling how they're alike. So some keywords for that are how many more, how much higher, shorter, heavier, longer, lighter. So let's look at our question. How much faster is Mrs. Landman than Mr. Landman? So with someone at home, please figure out what type of question we have here, and then you can use that to help you figure out if you need to add or subtract. Then your job is to go ahead and solve this question on a piece of paper. I want to see all your work. Remember, when you're finished, you can respond to my Flipgrid by either taking a video of yourself and explaining to me what you did, or you can take a picture of your work. Friends, that's it for resource. Remember, you can do this any day this week. I look forward to hearing your responses. Thank you.